for the second. India have won the test match. India have won the series. They're going to get back for two. India home. Lords goes one.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of 81 All Out Podcast. This is Mahesh at Cornered on Twitter. So today we are going to be continuing our Street Cricket Chronicles, through which we try and capture the amateur cricket culture in different parts of India and hopefully different parts of the cricketing world at large. We started the series with Delhi, and we moved down south to Karnataka, where Vijay Bardwaj gave us a fascinating account of the local tennis ball tournaments and their influence on some of the Karnataka legends. From there, we move to the eastern part of India and West Bengal to the state and city of the incumbent BCCI president. And to talk about the local cricket culture there, I have two special guests today with me. One is a cricket geek at large, a cricket historian, and a very fine cricket writer, Abhishek Mukherjee. Welcome to the show, Abhishek.
Hello.
And we also have an avid quizzer, a cricket fan, and a soon-to-be published cricket author, Shom Biswas, joining us from Hyderabad. Hi, Shom.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Cheers. So we're going to have some perspective from Calcutta through Abhishek, and Shom has a little bit of a perspective from Calcutta, but a lot more from Asansol. Did I get that name right?
Yeah, absolutely. As good as it is.
Okay, pardon my Chennai pronunciation. Let's get started. Why don't Abhishek, you get started? Just give me a sense of the neighborhood that you grew up playing cricket in, a little bit of imagery, and what kind of cricket was it, and the kind of plays that you played in, and the kind of people that you played with.
Okay, so there was a park near our place. There still is, I suppose. It's Maddox Square. It is one of those big Durga Puja locations. That was where I used to play some of my cricket. But the problem was during monsoons, Kolkata monsoons are not as deadly as Mumbai monsoons, but they used to last longer, and they lasted over, I think 5 or 6 months at times. So they started in April, then there were bouts in May, June, and went on till September. And the soil, I suppose, is more clay, so playing in the park was not easy. In the rainy months, it was either football in the park or the streets. So it was mostly streets, but even there we had a problem because in Kolkata winters, it was difficult to spot a dark colored ball, say after 5:30, 5:45. So yeah, I mean, cricket mostly happened on weekends, holidays, those summer vacations, puja vacations, and maybe an hour and a half at most after school. So now, street crickets. I had an accident when I was 9 while playing street cricket, and it would have been serious. So the non-striker's end was on the street. The striker's end was inside a sort of broken garden. So, of course, I was at the non-striker's end. I was trying to complete a second run. And I think it was an ambassador that hit me. I got away with 15 stitches. I was bedridden for 2 months. And after that, I simply tried out another street. So there were plenty of small, hubs of street cricket there. So once back, we moved to another street. So that was the usual thing. We played on one pavement, and all we had was straight runs for all. Runs had to be earned by playing straight or towards the leg side. So that was it. And if I think it was more than 6 or 7 aside, we could score runs behind, but offside was totally blocked. So the bowlers obviously bowled outside off. So that was the scenario for me till, say, age 10 to 14, 15. So that's it, basically.
And this was, what ball was used? Was it tennis ball or rubber ball?
Okay. So this probably demands a detailed description. So in Kolkata, we played with numerous kinds of ball. First was the basic hollow rubber ball. I think they call it tire ball in most cities. So these were the easiest to bat against. You just went after them. They did nothing to you. These were the most batsman-friendly balls. Then there was the Rubber-Deuce. So this was basically rubber and hollow and rubber, but so it was solid. So season balls are called deuce balls in Kolkata. So this was Rubber-Deuce, basically solid but made of rubber. So
Deuce
this was heavier.
as in the deuce, as in the tennis deuce.
No, I mean, I think it's spelled DEUCE, but there were boxes of SG balls on which they wrote DUSE. I've seen that spelling also.
But this is not dukes, right? This is not dukes, right?
No, this has nothing to do with dukes.
Okay.
Can I break in? I'd like to believe that the reason for these balls being called deuce balls were because of dukes. But then, of course, we used to call them deuce balls even in Asansol, but it never quite did. I assume that it was because it's a conversion of dukes balls. But anyway, we'll leave it there.
Interesting. Sorry, go ahead, Abhishek.
Yeah, so after I moved to Mumbai, I've never heard the term deuce balls, ever. Okay, so then there was another kind of ball. This was very hard, as hard as, say, a season ball. This was called corkade balls, not cork balls. Corkade, I don't know. Again, these were very hard, so you could use them only for throwdowns. And then the best bit was, the most popular was the tennis ball, which we used to call the Cambis ball. Now, I used to think this name is derived from canvas balls, but some people claim it comes from Cambridge. I still don't know what it is. I think it's canvas, but I'm not sure. So this also came in two varieties, heavy and light. So if you played throw or underarm, you could grip these things, grip the soft balls more. But when it was overarm, it was more with the hard tennis ball. Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of nuances, hard tennis balls, soft tennis balls. So Cambis balls were most popular. The major tournaments, there was big street cricket tournaments, I mean, with huge prize money, jerseys and all, often played under floodlight. These were all played with the Cambis ball. And towards the end, I mean, I think in the early 90s, we saw plastic balls. So these were also heavy and light and they hurt. So these were quickly discarded. So I suppose the most popular one was the Cambis ball.
Interesting. What about you, Sham? How was it for you?
As for Cambis balls, deuce balls, I think, all of this flashes back a lot of memories because it was pretty much the same for us. As in, the larger tournaments would be held in Cambis ball cricket and there would be deuce ball cricket and things like that. Now, see, first of all, there is a little bit of a difference between, and while Abhishek was talking about Maddox Square and a patch of green outside their house, it would probably be kind of rare in Kolkata that there would be a patch of green
very rare.
Available. Yeah, so that is not a problem in smaller towns like Asansol, and I can speak about Asansol or I can speak about Durgapur, where I spent a little bit of time when younger. I have a very tiny little bit of perspective of Kolkata, as in I have family in North Calcutta and in the Shalda area, and I used to visit during these summer vacations, and I have memories of playing inside the campus of Surendranath College and basically literally imagining that, people would have been studying there literally 2 hours back and we'd be playing in the corridors over there. But we were neighbors. My relations used to literally stay next doors. But anyway, so there is an obvious way in which neighborhood cricket probably differs in Asansol and smaller towns like Asansol in comparison to big cities would be in terms of, normally in terms of, as I was mentioning, in terms of space, right? So we'd never really have to play cricket on the streets because we'd never needed. There would be at least one patch of green in the neighborhood and often two, where we could pretty much go and play sport, right? So even if one patch of the green was available for football, there is something else that is available for us to go play cricket, though that would often not happen because it was kind of a community thing, right? So we'd all pretty much know when the cricket season starts and the football season begins. And I'll talk about those at length as well. But largely, my opinion was that these used to happen around the, post Kali Pujo, we'd start playing cricket. And again, once the first drops of rain fall, we'll move over to football. That was kind of the general texture that we used to have. That was would be kind of similar in Kolkata as well, I believe. Right, Abhishek?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Additionally, see, you couldn't play inside parks in monsoon, and the problem with Maddox Square was, since it was a Durga Puja venue, so
of
the
course.
vendors, they started
major Durga Puja venue.
building,
Major Durga Puja venue.
Yes.
Yeah.
The vendors, they started building. Since a month ahead.
Yeah.
So that would be August or September, depending on the calendar.
Right.
And then roughly sometime in the late 80s, they started building a children's park inside Maddox Square. That took up a bit of our playing area. So basically, we were pushed to street cricket.
Yeah. So actually, that was kind of similar for us as well. Like in Asansol, at least in Upper Garden, which is my area in Asansol, the ground that we had was a pretty decent sized ground. It would be about what? It was a square piece of land. It would be around 60 meters by 60 meters, which will be quite impressive by all standards, right? You can have a reasonable sized cricket tournament. Yes. And it was bang in the middle of the neighborhood. And it was a walled kind of, you'd see those things you see those photographs of those places in the US where it is like it's a cordoned out basketball area. It was pretty much like that. Though, of course, it was walled and the walls were not really very high, about 5 feet high walls. But so the square of the, I thought of how to describe it very well to you. And the only idea that came to my mind was to describe it on a 2x2 matrix. Imagine that entire ground is divided into a 2x2 matrix, right? Once you do that, there was one quarter that was taken off to be a kind of a children's park. So there was a concrete slide that was created, a concrete fountain in the middle of it. There was a sand pit. There were blocks which the kids could climb, etc. And small kids used to play there. So that part wasn't accessible to the rest of us to play football and cricket. So you imagine one quarter of a 2x2 matrix chopped off. So what is left is an L-shaped figure, right? L-shaped patch of green. So the length of that, the longer part of it, say 60 by 30, assume, that was dedicated for the older boys to play for us. And the smaller patch, which would be around, say, the smaller quarter, that would be for the younger ones to play. So once we have grown up a little bit and once we can, it was kind of a community event, right? So once we had kind of grown up a little bit, and so we go to the field and we start playing in the that choto mat, smaller ground, so as to say. It was called a choto. Choto is small, mat is ground. So we'd play in the choto mat for a while. And then after we have grown up a little bit, say we have gone to class 7 or something like that, around 7th standard, something like that. The seniors would kind of assume that, okay, you are now grown up enough to come play with the big boys. And then we'd get promoted to the bigger ground, which is the bottom mat. So we'll move over to the longer area of the green shape, of the patch of green. And it was like a big badge of honor that we are playing with the seniors right now. Yeah. So even
like a graduation.
It was literally like a graduation, absolutely. As in, I just had a conversation with and this was in Hyderabad, literally some time back. I was having a conversation, just happened to meet this lady, and she was mentioning that she knows somebody from my neck of the woods. She knows somebody from Asansol, Upper Garden, from Asansol, my neighborhood, and referred to a kid who was a couple years my junior, right? And my reference point was that, he used to still play in the Choto Mat while I was there. So as if, and I left when I was after the 10th, right? So my response was, he used to still play in the Choto Mat while I was there, as in, well, he doesn't count. He knows me, I don't know him, kind of a thing, because I had gotten promoted, that kind of a thing. So so that was kind of the ground that we played in. Most of the things that Abhishek talked about in terms of the ball was pretty much there. So one peculiarity of Bengal, and this is something that Abhishek kind of hinted on, I'd like to continue on that, is that, climate. Now it's important to note that it gets dark awfully quickly in Bengal, as early as about 5 p.m. in winters and about 6 p.m. in the summers. And daybreak is early. So daybreak is at about 5 a.m. in the morning. And secondly, most times of the year, especially in the summers, especially for our part of Bengal, which is in Asansol and Durgapur, that area, most times of the year, especially in the summers, it is awfully hot. So in the afternoons, in the mid-afternoons, you pretty much cannot play. That is out of the question. There is also a kind of a nor'wester called the Lu, which flows through. So you can only kind of start playing in the summers at around 4:30. So basically, the solution that we had kind of devised was that rather than one playing slot, there were two. There was around a 1.5 hour slot between, say, 5:30 to 7 in the morning when you can play, and another slot in the evening between 4:30 to 6, say in the summer, or even you kind of adjust it for the winter, etc. Assume school is between from 8 o'clock to 1:30 p.m. So we'd have two slots where we could play. And in our grounds, you'd imagine that, there was a children's playground as well. There were smaller kids that were playing in the other end who wouldn't in the morning, right? So in the morning, we'd play the cricket ball, the season ball cricket, right? Which is the deuce ball cricket. Because of course, the whole ground is to us and things like that. In the evenings, we'd play Cambis ball cricket, which is the tennis ball cricket. Because of course, you play a shot and a kid is hit by a tennis ball, a kid is hit by a Cambis ball, or a kid is hit by the Rubber-Deuce ball, which Abhishek also spoke about. It wouldn't really hurt so much that the kid would be seriously hurt or something, right? So that's kind of how it used to be split up. So in the morning, you'd have cricket ball cricket. In the evenings, we'll have tennis ball cricket or something like that. And of course, football and cricket is something that Abhishek spoke about as well. Unlike most other places, it was pretty much a two sport state. We'd play football right up to, say, and I have an explanation around why we used to stop playing football after Durga Puja, after Kali Puja. And that is because at least in our grounds, after the pandals are taken off, the pandals at the Durga Puja and Kali Puja pandals, they are created on tent poles, right? Bamboo tent poles that are dug into the grounds, and the whole pandals, you've seen Durga Puja pandals, right? Those pandals are created on top. So after those are taken off, there are these deep dents, deep holes that are built on the ground, right? And those could be a nightmare for the ankles, if you'd imagine, if you're playing football. So that is the point when you turn over, and the rains would have kind of stopped after Kali Puja, which is around late October, early November. So that is around the time when cricket comes in. And then cricket continues right up until the rains start falling, which will be late April, early May. That is when you flip over to football. And then football continues again till the cycle kind of repeats. So how I was mentioning it to somebody else, we flipped the British game completely. Football was the summer game and cricket was the winter game. So yeah, pretty much like that.
It actually sounds to me a little like Australia. Of course, the summer-winter flip is still there, but in terms of how symmetrically they work with each other.
Yeah.
But what do you do if you're just a cricket guy? What do you do during the football season? Is there any hope for you? Do you still find company?
You know what? That was one thing in Asansol. If you're from Asansol and you're an 80s, 90s kid like I was, you play. You can be a bad player. So let's say you 100% play and you 100% fight. You might be a poor player. You might not be able to run to save your life. You might have zero hand-eye coordination. You might only be interested in football, no interest in cricket, and vice versa, but you played. So I know this guy who was really good in cricket and who was a very average football player, who later on became a IITian and etc., fantastic student as well, who was a very good cricketer, but who couldn't play football at all, but who did turn up. He was probably picked last, but that's okay. He turned up. You might have, there are guys who might have stopped playing the day they became an adult, but while you were there, you played. And I was just thinking about, the kind of people who played and the kind of people who, so as I said, in Asansol, if you're a 80s to 90s kid, you 100% will play and you 100% will have gotten into fights. That is pretty much given. So I do have a person in mind here, a very close friend of mine who later on became an IIT gold medalist and a major scientist / professor in the US, who would have had one memorable fight nonetheless. So in Asansol, during our times, you pretty much played all day. You pretty much played all day and you studied whenever you are not playing. So we did not have too many other things. In the evenings, we'd play again. We'd play badminton, table tennis, carom. It's immaterial whether you played it well, whether you played it badly, you played. Some would join karate, some would do boxing. The more affluent kids would play tennis in the Asansol club. I don't know much about that, never went there. There was swimming pool, our school, at least our school had a swimming pool, and there was athletics in school, the best and the whole thing, it was basically you did not have too much of a choice, you played. And specialization, you know what, think of it this way. From Asansol, you couldn't quite, this was in the early 80s, right? Mahendra Singh Dhoni hasn't arrived and opened up the possibilities for a small town kid that you can actually consider cricket or football or anything as a profession, any sport as a profession. We were all playing it because that's what we did. We were kids, we played sport. So the question of this is where the football season starts, what do I do now, did not even arrive. The football season, so you play. You play badly, but you play. You are stuck in as a goalkeeper, but you play. When the cricket season comes, you are again the king. That's fair enough.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me something about. I mean, in your case, you talked about the L-shaped field. So, what did that translate into in terms of the idiosyncrasies of playing there? Was like, did you develop a particular shot and be extremely weak on something else? Like when we were talking about Delhi, Protat, one of my friends said that the street in which they were playing, there were no runs on the square of the wicket. And he kind of argued that probably Kohli grew up in an environment like that, which is why his square cut is shit. Right. So give us a sense of the dynamics of playing in such a field.
So, what we had was a long and narrow ground, right? So your point is absolutely relevant. It could actually have an effect. Long as in, okay, 60 meters is not really long, right? But with the hard Cambis ball that Abhishek was talking about, if you're a reasonably, it is hard and it's small. So if you bowl quick, it comes across pretty quickly, and if you hit it, it will stay hit. It can cross the 40 meters pretty comfortably, unlike a tennis ball So football works quite well there, except for corner kicks. But cricket was a bit of a problem. How do you provide for square of the wicket shots? Each side would be around 15 meters. That's nothing, right? You hit a solid shot, it will go. So initially, the seniors decided that the leg side boundary was to extend it into the children's area and into the choto mat, the smaller back pocket. And there'll be a couple of fielders who will be placed over there, and you'll only be bowling from one side, so that you can only hit leg side shots. On the off side, if your stroke crosses over and gets to the road on the other side, you only get 2 runs. So that's pretty much the maximum that you can get from the offside, right? So, but then what happened as a result of that was that pretty much, the people over there figured out that you're creating one-dimensional cricketers, and it wasn't quite working out fine, etc. And the powers that be decided that they'd flip the whole thing over, and it's only the offside strokes that will now get you 4s and 6s. They just turned the ground around, basically. They just decided that the only side that you'll be bowling from right now will be where the offside has the longer area. On the leg side, you'd only have that. Again, the same rule prevails, right? On the leg side, the maximum you can score would be 2 runs. So, for better or for worse, we knew that the only consistent stroke where you can get runs would be the straight drives or the straight lifts or the Afridi style straight hoiks, right? So, we'd rather play straight. We'd play straight under, even the big stroke makers and the defensive guys. Nonetheless, pretty much everybody would be hitting the straight strokes, because you never knew when the ground would be turned around and when suddenly your major stroke that you play, if that's a offside flash or that's a leg side, the general hoik is suddenly out of business because you can only get 2 runs out of that. So we'd hit straight more often than not. And so and also in Asansol, what we used to also have are these neighborhood games, right? So even though we are playing within our neighborhood, there would be other neighborhoods all across Asansol where they would also be their own. They would also have their own teams, right? So there'd be a senior team and a junior team of every neighborhood. So we'd be kind of galumphing around Asansol throughout all the time, and so playing matches with other neighborhoods, right? pada is neighborhood, inter-pada cricket matches, inter-pada football matches. And all of these matches will be played in their rules, right? So somebody else comes to play at After Garden, you'd know that our rules will still stay. So other teams come in, they know that suddenly on the leg side there is only a 2, right? So that is pretty much, how it was. So yeah, probably, one thing that you knew consistently was that if you hit a straight drive, high above the bowler's head, you'll get a 6. So we played straight as often as we could.
It sounds like Stephen Fleming would have had a good time over there.
Yeah, maybe.
How was it in your neighborhood, Abhishek?
So I'll use Shom's example. So 2 quadrants were of a 2x2 matrix were off bounds. So basically it became a small ground. So in the parks, it was basically the usual. So nothing much. So what happened on the park was there were a lot of trees. So these became compulsory 1s and compulsory 2s, depending on the distance from the wicket. So that was one thing. The idea was everyone wanted to everyone wanted to hit past the trees. Now that is not an easy thing to do. So yeah, I mean, that was, I suppose, the only thing. The length was normal. And when we moved to street cricket, obviously things cropped up. So there were houses. And some houses, the ball was easy to retrieve from. Some houses, not so. So we knew which ones. And there were also lampposts. So what happened was, there were some houses where you are given out if the ball goes there. So once a ball hit the lamppost and then went inside the house. So obviously there was a lot of commotion. The batsman refused to get out because the batsman refused to leave because it was not a direct hit. And the bowling side basically argued that it didn't land on the ground. So I don't think that match ever got over. So the laws had to change, basically. So a hit on the lamppost counted as a hit on the ground, and I mean things got complicated. So I mean I suppose every neighborhood has its own rules.
Yeah, but the consequences vary dramatically between cities. Like in our Delhi podcast, they were mentioning that such a thing would have led to what they call the panga, and the inevitable next line saying, "Do you know who my dad is?" So Calcutta seems to, or Bengal at large, seems to have.
Oh no! Asansol was a very tough place. We'd have fights all the time. It was okay. Sometimes I remember our seniors used to mention that they would, there was a senior team and a junior team. So sometimes the senior team would go out to play a match with the neighborhood, and they'd have a fight, and they'd literally mention that they'd have a match. Literally, they're playing on the last ball, 6 runs, last over, 6 runs to win. And the seniors had discussed among themselves that we hit the 6 and we run, because if the other guys catch us, that we have defeated them in their own grounds, they'll beat us up. So it wasn't that genteel at all. Maybe in Kolkata, but in Asansol, etc., this was next to Wasipur, man. How cool can it be? How relaxed can it be?
I find this dichotomy a little hard to digest. So on one hand, you're saying everybody gets a shot at bowling and everybody gets a shot at batting. And then you're saying there are these intense fights. I mean, you don't even take your cricket seriously to ensure only specialists get to do what they have to do. But at the same time, you care so much about the result.
No,
do you find it funny at all?
No, look at it this way. In a neighborhood, when you're playing within the neighborhoods are communities, right? So how do we get initiated into, and Abhishek, you can, correct me if this is different in Kolkata. When you're playing within the neighborhood, there is a sense of camaraderie. Everybody knows everybody. You are somebody's cousin, you're somebody's uncle. So basically, you come in, unlike today's apartment complex existence, neighborhoods are communities. So when you're grown up enough, you land up over there and you land up as Bappada's cousin. So Shom has come to play. Shom is Bappada's cousin, and he is introduced to the Chotoma. So at some point in time, you know that you will get to bat, etc. But when you're playing neighborhood against neighborhood, then you're nobody's cousin. Then you're playing to win.
Yeah. Also, one thing about street cricket was there was a big trouble. I mean, as I told you, evening cricket was almost impossible in Kolkata because of the light. So a lot of cricket was played on the weekend. And what was the problem with weekend cricket on the streets is your parents pass by. So that is why you can't really fight, or even swearing was often ruled out. So we wanted to swear, but we could not. Now, the problem was if the parents realized that something was brewing, they often stopped by and asked, okay, I want to bat for a ball, just bowl me one. So, the tension goes away, the tension releases. They knew when and what to do. Now, my parents, I stayed a bit far away, but the others, we played in front of one of the boys' places. So, yeah, a fight was ruled out because of, you can see a match referee was always around.
Okay, okay. Let's talk a little bit about the economics of it. Going by whatever we've spoken so far, it seems like Shom enjoyed a very sort of comfortable life with all kinds of access to all kinds of sports. Beyond the balls, let's talk a little bit about other equipments because especially it also changes between generations. Abhishek, I'm very keen to know what were the equipments you had in terms of bats, the number of bats, the stumps. Did you use a wall, stone? Give us a picture of the paraphernalia that you use for street cricket.
Okay, so bats were basically of two kinds, which were named after the balls, basically. So the seasoned bat were also called deuce bats, the proper cricket bats. So you played a season ball cricket, deuce ball cricket with deuce bats. And there was this inferior version, thinner, lighter bat with which you played tennis ball cricket. They were called Cambis bats. So basically the bats were named after the balls. The Cambis bats were also way cheaper. You could get one for what, Shom? $30? Used to be around 30.
Yeah, around $30. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We'd have a few of them, yes.
Yeah, but season bats were season bats. So yeah, that was one part. Pads were obviously shared. You used to wear one pad, and there was one pair of pad. So everyone used to wear a pad on his front leg. I don't know whether it happens the same way in other cities, but yeah, we used to share a pair of pads. So that was it.
But what about the number of bats in a team? Is it one bat or every kid had a bat?
Okay, 2 season bats was a luxury. So typically it used to be one season bat, use bat, and one Cambis bat. So the person who took strike used the deuce bat. And if he ran a single, they used to meet midway, and then the other batsman took the deuce bat. So that is how it happened. If we had 2 deuce bats, it was nothing like that. So if that happened only when someone's relative came over during the summer vacation or something like that.
Interesting. How is it for you, Shom?
So in Asansol, at least most of the places, every neighborhood had a kind of a community center. At least that was kind of the same. That was kind of the thing with us. Every neighborhood had a kind of a community center, and 50% of all the equipment was bought by the community center people, by getting some chanda, as they call it. Chanda is basically deposited by all the people, all the people of the community putting in some money, etc. Right. So most of these bats, everything, apart from badminton rackets, probably I did not own too many, I do not remember owning any of these equipments at all. So, and the carom board, of course, at home. Every Bengali family pretty much would have, at least in our times, would have a carom board at home. And probably a badminton racket. Everything else was, pretty much part of the neighborhood, and we'd pretty much pick up those and play. And you know what, we had a lot of these, and pretty much exactly how Abhishek said, there were, there were cricket ball bats, there were the proper cricket ball bats, and there were the other bats. So during during a morning match, which was being played with a deuce ball. That's a cricket ball. So from one side, you'd be batting with when you're batting with a proper cricket bat. On the other side, when you're like taking the runs, you're using the tennis ball bat to do the running. And of course, when you're playing, tennis ball cricket in the evening, then any bat goes, right? So that's pretty much like that. And that's pretty much the way it was. Balls were, so we, just like Abhishek mentioned, that we'd play Cambis ball cricket, we'd always have these Rubber-Deuce balls in hand. In my opinion, these Rubber-Deuce balls were useless because they'd bounce an ungodly amount, etc. When you play, literally, you bowl over pitch, you bowl pretty much on length, and the ball would jump up straight on your face. And that was not 6'5" Courtney Walsh bowling, that was 5'5" Shom Biswas bowling. So there's a difference between the two. But they had their own purpose, right? So all of these things, they were stored within the community center, and we'd go pick them up, and then we'd go play our cricket, and etc. That was pretty much it.
Yeah, so way before this, these adjustments, Dukes, Kookaburra, SG, we had to adjustment for the balls. So we played with 5-6 kinds of balls. And remember, they were also used in the same match. So if a ball got lost in one of the houses, you had to get another ball. It may not be the same ball. So after a Rubber-Deuce ball, you're probably playing with a Cambis ball.
Yeah.
So yeah, these things happen.
Yeah, absolutely. As in, say for example, you've played a match with a Cambis ball, right? And the ball has broken, or the ball has gone to, say, maybe you've hit it really hard, and the ball has gone to Chirodip's house, where Chirodip's father will not throw the ball back at you because he doesn't like you playing cricket. You still have to finish the match. So you play it with a Rubber-Deuce ball, you finish the match, go home, and you kind of figure out how to do it the next day. So there we are.
Man, if Harbhajan Singh had grown up in West Bengal, he would have given up cricket.
But think about it, as when Abhishek was talking about, early in the morning, you remember Jhulan Goswami talking in her interviews about how she used to board a train at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to Vivekananda Park and actually attend matches, right? So somebody from somewhere pretty much far away from West Bengal could actually do that. So that was allowed. So that probably helped that, there were two different times to play cricket. That probably was also beneficial, that you could actually play in the morning and go back home during the day.
Okay, and did any of your matches involve money? Did you have bet matches, or were they all just competitive Olympian spirit matches?
Where would we get money from? We had no money to bet.
Yeah. So, Abhishek, go ahead.
So yeah, there was no money involved in our cricket. In West Bengal, I don't know why. West Bengal, there is a concept that you don't ask for pocket money. If you need something, we will buy you. You don't give children money. I don't know why, but that is a concept we had grown up with. It has changed now, but in the 80s and 90s, it was pretty much the same in Kolkata. Shom?
Absolutely. I figured out the concept of pocket money when I left home, when I came to Bangalore, when parents gave me a little bit of allowance. I was 18 years of age. So absolutely the same. Absolutely. But then, you know what? In football, there was a concept of kept matches, where basically, there were people who were having these small, tournaments where they used to hire people from hire really good footballers from other places, and they'd actually pay them money for actual money football tournaments. But at our level, it was, money matches were far, far away. So, but we do know that such things did exist in the overall global scheme of things. But at our level, it was not even close.
So, and Cape happened. Cape involved big players. You are basically hiring someone from outside to play for your team.
Right.
So that means you're a big player. Nobody was expected to hire me or anyone from our neighborhood. That was unthinkable.
Our Pada cricket was pretty much, there was no money involved. There was a lot of pride involved. There was a lot of physical violence possible, but no money. No, No, yeah, but there were some prize money tournaments, etc., that were also held. So there was, I know that there was an Asansol league that our senior. So every neighborhood had a senior team and a junior team. The senior team, when they would be playing in the Asansol league, they would be, of course, there was a prize money involved. But that I don't think would have anything to do with the getting paid to play or something.
That's very interesting because I've played like amateur cricket in two cities. One is Delhi and one is Chennai. And in Delhi, pretty much every match is a bet match. And the way bet matches work is that they do a one-on-one bet loss, like each person 5 rupees or each person 10 rupees. Whereas in Chennai, it's about a team. The team says this match is worth 50 rupees or whatever. And in Delhi, there is a marked difference in the quality of the contest between a bet match and a match which doesn't involve any money stakes. And I also, we heard Vijay Bardwaj, but even otherwise, we've heard other people from Bangalore saying bet matches are not uncommon. So I'm quite surprised that this culture doesn't exist at all.
And this is at all levels, as in, say for example, as Abhishek was talking about, KEP matches are involving big players and big amounts of prize money, etc. But is the betting happening at all levels?
At absolutely all levels. Wow. Like, in Delhi, it happens even if they play underarm cricket, I won't be surprised if they have bets riding on them.
Wow. Yeah. So that's a little bit probably over and beyond. Abhishek, what do you think?
No, I think we never got any pocket money, as I told you. It was an alien concept. So, as I told you, our parents didn't believe in children, didn't believe in giving children money. They used to tell us what we need, we'll buy. And now, when you stretch this to a larger scale, Bengalis, I believe, are the only, people who believe that money is a source of evil. So, okay, we are basically, a rich person is inferior to a well-read poor person. In fact, the poorer he is, the more respectable he is. I don't know why this concept arose, but that was the case. And of course, we were conditioned to that. So yeah, money was a source of evil. How do we get pocket money to bet on?
No wonder you guys allowed everybody to bat and bowl.
Yeah.
Sorry, extending on that theme, I also want to know.
So by the way, just one thing. In Asansol, you'd not have everybody to bat and bowl. It would kind of be a transitional thing, right? People go away, so other people get to play. So, yeah.
So I want to kind of extend on the idiosyncrasy of cricket in different cities. So if I have to ask you, what is the one point of contention which brings out the most common conflict in street cricket? Like in Chennai, the most common thing is the bowler did not inform the umpire which side is going to bowl from. And therefore, the umpire who belongs to the batting side gives the no ball, even though the batsman doesn't care about it. It happens in every match, every day of the week. Whereas in Delhi, probably it'll be about the toss, it'll be about the boundaries which are not clear, and somebody disputes the boundary and cancels off the match. So if you have to think of the most common conflict or point of contention in street cricket in Calcutta, what would it be?
I think in Kolkata it was always wide. So as I told you, there was no run on the offside. So we typically left anything that went close to the wall. And okay, the umpire called it a wide. The umpire was from the batting side, so he invariably called it a wide. And then the bowling side, of course, refused to accept that. Wide is one of the, if you play on one side of the road, that is bound to happen. The other was, when it came to any dismissal, especially whether it bounced on the way to a building or some unusual thing. Suppose it fell inside a drain. So what happens to that ball? So, and things like that. But I think the dismissal controversy happens everywhere. Wides reach a level where if a ball went past a certain distance, the ball had to be cancelled. And taking a level further, if someone bowled 3 consecutive white balls, the over was cancelled. The over had to be restarted. The runs were also annulled. So this obviously made things even more complicated, because a bowlers after conceding a few runs, deliberately bowled a few wides, and then the batting side refused to accept these wides. Then the umpire, who was from the batting side, he started favoring the bowling side, saying that these were not wides. So things got a bit heated for a very weird reason. That is something unique to street cricket, played on one side. I can't see that happening anywhere else.
Interesting. What about you, Sean?
Yeah, so I'll extend on that. So that's very true. That is there. So also I would just like to add on a little bit. In Asansol, as I was saying, everybody would, at least in our neighborhoods, pretty much everybody who's landed up in the ground has come to play, right? So there is so the people who want to play are playing. So it's not that there is anybody who's allocated to be an umpire or something like that. So who becomes the umpire? So basically, somebody from the batting team is the umpire now, who would have already got out or who's yet to bat, right? So invariably what happens is that when decisions are taken, so once the teams have been decided and decisions are taken, basically you are umpiring for, it's not like Khizar Hayat umpiring or a Pilu reporter umpiring. It is pretty much like your same team umpiring. It's like literally somebody who's just got out who's umpiring. So decisions obviously were, half of the decisions were were all over the place, right? So a lot of the controversies came in because of that. And you are basically supporting your own team, which obviously they would, but hey, how dare you? You're supposed to do this, etc., etc. And there would be a huge furore. And this also happened in intra-neighborhood cricket matches, you see, because again, whoever is coming in, unless it's the junior teams that are playing, so a senior team person would be standing in umpire and stuff like that. Again, somebody from the batting team would be standing in the umpires. So of course, in those cases, these could lead to a fracas in the middle of the field. Everybody is fighting everybody. That could happen. So yeah, so that was one other thing.
Oh, another thing I just remembered. This is unique to Cambis ball cricket. So when we played Cambis ball cricket, we had normal wickets. So not normal, three stumps on one end at the batsman's end, and one stump at the bowler's end, because there were only 4 stumps and no bail. So now when we played tennis ball cricket, some neighborhoods had those things. I don't know. I think they're called Wilkins wicket. Basically, a wooden base with 3 holes where you fix 3 stumps. But we didn't have anything of the sort. So what we had was bricks. So you can't stack up bricks because the wicketkeeper will be in danger. So we had 2 bricks placed at roughly off stump and leg stump, and the height and everything had to be assumed. Now you can understand what that means. Anything the batsman missed and was close to the stumps, the fielding side appealed. The umpire from the batting side obviously turned that down. And now the height could at least be judged, but what if a ball just passed over the brick? So did that miss the off stump? Did that not miss the off stump? So this obviously led to major ruckus. So that is another thing. Again, unique to street cricket, where you did not have a proper set of stumps.
Yeah, I also want to touch a little bit upon the cricketing terms, unique terms. I mean, I've already got quite a few in terms of deuce and Cambis balls and stuff like that. What about other terms like for instance, in Delhi, the checking is called batta. In Chennai, it's called manga. Are there unique terms for fairly mainstream cricket terms that is used in Calcutta or in Bengal at large?
Yeah, checking is called throwing actually. I can't think of a proper. I can't think of a proper jargon.
Yeah, we spoke about last man batting, right? So if one team
Yeah.
has 10 players, the other team has 9 players. The team with 9 players will, after 8 wickets have fallen, have the last man back. That kind of. Yeah, so that was quite popular over there. And
Oh, okay. There was half out. So there was some house. There were some houses from where you could retrieve the ball. So these were half outs. So if you hit the ball twice to these houses, you basically get out half.
oh wow,
So if
that's
you
cool.
did that twice, you get out. But
Wow,
some
that is
were
such a
basically
cool
off
concept.
limits. So those were full out. I can't imagine we kept track of all this, half outs and everything. And
Oh yeah,
then
these would be serious affairs. Wonderful. This is so cool.
yeah. And then there was individual cricket. I don't know whether this is common elsewhere, but so suppose only 5 people have turned up. So you can't divide them in 2 groups. I mean, it doesn't make sense to have 2 people on one side. So basically, everyone got a chance to bat and everyone got a chance to bowl. So how was the batting order decided? So one person stood with his back towards the others, and someone else basically put up 1 finger or 2 fingers, and the first person announced a name, so that becomes their batting order. So we bat according to that sequence. The bowling is in reverse order. But there was a bizarre rule that if you get out, you can't be the next bowler. I don't know why. I mean, again, I suppose to give everyone a chance to bat and bowl. That was the idea. But yeah, that individual cricket was pretty common, especially.
Actually, that is fairly universal. Whatever you've explained in terms of both how the lineup is decided and the ascending order of batting and descending order of bowling is fairly universal, I think. That seems to be the case everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
There was another thing during last man batting or individual cricket. So this I just remember. So how do you get run out if there is only one person batting? So we had to imagine a line halfway down the pitch. So the fielding side had to hit the stumps of the end, corresponding to which half of the pitch the batsman was on. It was very complicated. It was an imaginary line, but somehow the decisions were always accepted. Remember, in individual cricket, there was no umpire. The decision, somehow, I don't know how we agreed on these things. How a group of 5 people agreed on whether a batsman was run out without any line. I don't know how we agreed to this.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Did you have this concept called Joker? Like if you have odd numbers and you split a team of 2 of 6 and there's one extra guy, he gets to bat on both sides?
Yeah, getting to bat on both sides was not as common. It was basically 7 on one side, 6 on the other. The side that has 6, you have to bowl out all 6. You have to dismiss all 6. For a team of 7, you will have to take 6 wickets anyway. So, and when the team of 6 fields, you get a fielder from the opposition. That was how it worked. And the fielder obviously cheated.
Yeah, neither did we. You know, nobody was in Asansol. We did not either encounter something like somebody batting for both sides, etc. Joker. I'd love to be a joker in that case.
Yeah, but you can't bowl, by the way. You can only bat.
Okay. Okay.
There's another concept that we discussed. Apparently, it's called connection in Delhi, and it's called current in Bangalore. Essentially, when you're running somebody out, you can catch the ball, and you don't necessarily have to hit the stone which acts as the stump at the runner's end, at the bowler's end. You can actually put a foot on the stone and catch it, and the electricity somehow passes through, and that's considered out. Did you have something?
Like baseball?
Yeah, baseball, yeah.
Yeah.
No, baseball was an American sport. We had no access to American sports.
Yeah, exactly. I have never heard this either.
TV. There was no cable TV when we grew up.
Right.
And anyway, America was a capitalist nation. We were a communist state.
Well said.
Interesting. Okay, good. How about the cricketers bowling and batting that you imitated the most? Give us some sense of who were the most popular cricketers to imitate in your times.
So, I'll go.
Yeah, sure.
probably Kadir. Abdul Kadir was pretty big, I believe, because he had a very jaunty action, right? So apart from the spinners, I remember a boy who used to bowl quite quick and who used to come in with his arms pretty much swinging like Kadir. And so you cannot imagine it. If you haven't seen it, you cannot imagine it. So it simply cannot be done.
So if you grew up in Kolkata in the 1980s, you would find it very difficult to come across a boy who had not imitated Abdul Qadir at some point. I can assure you this.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, you were talking about imitating cricketers. So obviously we were 80s kids. Tendulkar had not yet arrived. Gavaskar was basically on the verge of retirement. There were Kapil Dev and Vengsakar, but you obviously, while fielding, you imitated Azhar. And you tried to flick off your hips. So you expected anything to come at your pads. Even if they didn't come at your pads, you tried to flick like Azhar. You tried to pick up and throw like Azhar, and inevitably failed. Nobody. Yeah. I mean, even test cricketers couldn't do that.
True. So for batting, we'd had a few standard peculiarities though, like Shrikant, stepping out to the leg side after delivery and scrunching your nose. Like, Andrew Hudson.
Yeah, we didn't have a Shrikant-like stance, but we had his mannerisms.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like Andrew Hudson was actually, once we first saw Andrew Hudson, that was, gripping the bat, like pointing your left arm to, their elbow pointing at mid-off. That was something that we tried to copy quite a bit. I remember there was one. So I used to open the batting because I did not have any strokes, but I could hold up one end. So I remember that the person I used to bat with totally used to hold the bat like Andrew Hudson, the elbow pointing at mid-off, that kind of a thing. Or like Graham Gooches, like lifting the bat up, while taking his stance, right? With the bat hanging in the air. So these are like, kind of the common things that we'd see. Yeah. So I would imagine that in the day and age, they would copy Malinga like anything, right? It is kind of an easy action to copy and, it's stylish too.
So another person who became quite a sensation when we were very young, around 10, less than 10. So Raman Lamba. So everyone wanted to hit like Lamba. Lamba also had the looks. He looked very flamboyant. But of course, the Lamba craze faded away after, say, 3-4 months. So that was a very temporary thing.
I want to get a sense of who are the Bengal cricketers who you think would have thrived in street cricket, would have been like stars.
In my locality, remember, the leg side was the only side where you could score, or the straight boundary, which was very long. So that becomes the left-hander's offside. So if it's offside and straight, it has to be Ganguly. I think he would have butchered anyone in that locality. Short boundaries, offside open. He could have done anything with the bowling. The only way I've later thought of this. The only way we could have kept him quiet was the law that whoever hits the ball a long distance has to fetch the ball. So I guess that might have what I used.
That was brilliant. Yeah, why not?
Yeah. So the others. Other than the Bengal team, so everyone, I don't think there were, the street cricketers, the tennis ball street cricketers ever made it big. But outside Bengal, outside India, I think A.B. de Villiers would have been the emperor of street cricket, his brand of batting. So you define the boundaries, he hits there. So that is what it is about. You improvise on any possible ground. So that's pretty much about it.
Yeah, actually, that's what I was thinking of as well. A.B. de Villiers and Kevin Peterson, they would be seriously impressive in our kind of, especially in our kind of, where dimensions keep on changing. You can hit straight, but after that, you'd be given an option of, suddenly at some point of time, the leg side becomes the place where you can score boundaries, and suddenly the other day it's turned around and the offside is where you can, you can score boundaries. So somebody like, those guys would have been seriously impressive. So yeah, that's what I was actually thinking of, guys. Like, and of course, anybody who can hit straight and hit well, would be good. And say, for example, somebody like Shahid Afridi, who was like seriously good as a crossbat straight heaver, right? So he would be quite...
Okay, with that we come to the end of a very exciting discussion on the amateur cricket culture in West Bengal. Cambis ball, deuce ball, and half wicket, and so many more things we learnt about the cricket in Bengal, which is so different from the rest of the country. I hope you had as much fun as I had in chatting with these two guys. Thanks a lot, Abhishek, and thanks a lot, Sham, for joining us.
Yep.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me.
He'll come back for the second. India have won the test match. India have won the series. They're going to get back for two. India at home. Lords goes wild.